You're listening to the Trade Show Insights Podcast, Season 17, Episode 4. I'm your host and exhibit marketing strategist, Marlis Arnold, bringing you tools to improve your exhibit results. On today's episode, brought to you by the Exhibit Marketers Cafe, we've got some creative ideas for you to make your booth more fun for both your attendees and your staff. So I would like to introduce you to Dr. Bob Nelson, advocate for employee recognition and engagement worldwide. He's sold over 5 million books on these topics, including 1,501 Ways to Reward Employees, 1,001 Ways to Energize Employees, 1,001 Ways to Engage Employees, and his latest book, Work Made Fun Gets Done, Easy Ways to Boost Energy, Morale, and Results. Dr. Bob has been featured extensively in the national and international media, including the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, CNN, NPR, and all the other major networks about how to best motivate today's employees. He's presented on 6 continents and worked with 80% of the Fortune 500 companies. We are so honored to welcome the guru of thank you, Dr. Bob Nelson. Welcome to Virtual Lunch.
Well, thanks for having me. Sounds like a fun conversation y'all were having there.
Well, that's the whole theme of the day. We decided to make it all about fun because that is your thing. Work made fun gets done.
Yes. And you gotta have a buzz to get people to come to the booth. There's no doubt about it.
Yes. Well, let's start out and talk a little bit about some of I know you have literally thousands of ideas that you share in your books of ways to make things more fun and draw people in. But what are some of your ideas for specifically in the trade show world, some examples you could share of things that make it more fun on the show floor?
Well, absolutely. To have a draw, I think you need to think beyond the bowl of candy,
Right.
That's kind of almost obligated to do something like that. But you have to give people a reason to come to the booth. And I personally, my preference is to, if possible, to tie into the business of your services that you're offering. And one way to do that I've done a lot of, that's worked really well, is as an author to be in someone's booth to sign books that ideally relate to your brand and the topic of the services. I've done some. I've gone to some trade shows. Often I'm speaking or doing the keynote, but I actually have gone to some where I've only gone there to sign books, and I will just look at who the sponsors are and who the exhibitors are, and just contact a few and say, hey, would you like to have me in your booth? And I've had really good success with that, and people love it. There's a lot of people never met an author and never gotten a signed book, and so it is something special. And when I do it right, I'll get stickers made up, gold stickers, compliments of, and the firm's name that I put on the cover of the book, and then of course they can have marketing inserted. But the idea is to have a draw. So I did one conference where I did that in 7 different booths, and just spent my whole time just doing that. And I had a minimum, I think it was like 100 copies that people had to buy at a discount of one of my books. And I've got 31, so it's easy to find something that fits, and especially since everybody needs motivated employees, so all my books relate to that topic of how to how to get more from employees, how to attract them to the company, and how to hold on to them. So where that has makes sense, I find that works very well. And I've some conferences I've had 800 people line up to get a signed book.
Wow.
And what I find is humorous is that the booth, besides the booth I'm in, often they'll go to the conference manager, and they'll either say one of two things. So either say they'll complain, this booth next to us is blocking all our traffic, and protest, or they'll say, wherever this booth is next conference, I want to be next to him, because I can't believe we got everyone there, a captive audience. We're talking to them in the line, and so is the glass half empty or half full? It's how you look at it. But
Well, exactly, and that's the thing. It's like making use of that line, whether you are the booth that's hosting it or you're the booth that has the traffic coming by, making the most of it. The book signings, yeah, I've definitely seen that many times.
You've done that, yes.
I've been the featured attraction as well, and it
It's
is
kind of
always fun to
fun,
have people
isn't
come
it?
up and go, "Oh, you're an author. Would you sign my book?" So
Yeah.
yeah, they are pretty impressed. I actually remember at one of my clients' shows, I was just casually walking down the aisle. The show floor had just opened, and I was just walking down the aisle. All of a sudden, these two ladies just about run me over, tote bags flinging and everything. And they're like just zooming to the back of the hall. And I thought, what in the world is the attraction? And so I wandered back that way. And there was, like you said, there was a line of probably 40 or 50 people in a booth. And I had no idea who the author was, but obviously he was a big draw to that audience because they were lining up for him. So, I think in most any industry, there's always an author that you can find that would be, relevant to your audience, that people would be interested in. So that
absolutely. And then if you have that, you got, and if they're speaking at the conference, that's added mileage, because they can reference it from the platform and say, hey, and if you want to get my book, it's going to be, Sally, raise your hand again. Sally is going to be at booth 1403, and great company that they purchased copies for me to sign for you all. So you can help, to spur the audience. And then also I find it helps, because sometimes I've done that and people just expect, because I'm in the booth, that's going to attract people. You got to let people know the author's going to be there. So
exactly
in the daily program, or I've send everyone a postcard beforehand. Bring this card to the booth to get your book. If you do that, then the results are many times higher. Or at the very least, you have a sign in the booth that says author will be here at these times.
Right.
So for those that do just drift by, but just relying on people to walk by is less advantageous than to actually market it in some way.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, do you have some other examples of some ways to gamify, either, at the booth, or like you said, leading up to getting people excited about coming to the booth, some very clever ideas that you've seen clients do?
And I think that's really important, because a lot of people that go to events, they plan the event in advance if it's a big event, and who they want to get to. And so they will actually look over and read over everything. And if in your description you're saying that we're offering this, or we're featuring an author, or we're doing a giveaway on such and such, that will people will map their day around that. So that's good. And ideally, as I said, it's best if it fits to your services in some way. So if it relates in some way, then that's even better, because then it's making the connection. You can and other people listening to this too. I had a sponsor that hosted a adoption group from the community. I don't know if it was puppies or kittens, but whatever it was, it really worked well. People, just a stress relief. And so they'd come and they'd hang out, and of course they'd chat them up. So I think that you could do fun stuff. Of course, I always think having a massage chair is a great investment, because people are, they're walking around there, and they're not used to walking around on the feet all day, and so they are kind of their feet are sore, and they're kind of dragging. So that's a nice thing. Again, that doesn't typically relate to unless it's a wellness service that you have. But I think that's a good thing as well. Um, I've used scratch off stickers, where you get it, and it calls attention to the booth, but then they scratch off for a sample of this, or again a book, or a sample of your services, which could be whatever that might be, an assessment or a sample. If it's So I think it makes sense to wrap around the things that you're offering, ideally, and to highlight like that, and that becomes part of the getting to know you, that they get see a sample of your product or services. Um,
Well, I also, one of the examples in your Work Made Fun Gets Done book was, and this wasn't necessarily specifically for trade shows, but I could see how it could be used in that way, was to make a spoof video. And so the employees all got together and they made this really fun social media video. And I think doing something like that would be a fun way to, invite people to come to your booth and really kind of not exactly gamify it, but just kind of give them a taste of the kind of fun that they're going to get to see in the booth.
Fun always works, and I've having said that, I can recall vendors that would do again, it had nothing to do with their business, but they would roll a thing of Michael Jackson, and it was very effective. I remember bringing people back to look at the video that they were showing, on a nonstop roll. So when you have something that's an attraction, a person, a book, something fun, on a clip, that's going to be help to draw people in, because you can only talk to one person at a time. And if there's a group of people, and you've got, a limited number of staff workers, then there's going to be other people that you're going to miss because they just walk by. So unless you have something to grab their attention that pulls them in. I've done, and again, if you use an author or talent, and I've only done this a few times, but it works really, really well, is to have the person hang a microphone on you. And so they have a limited broadcast for the area, and not to do a presentation, which of course you can do if you have room for that, but just to talk to people as they're asking you questions, and have that broadcast that draws people in.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you go from having a one-on-one conversation to suddenly there's a group of people standing around because they say, oh yeah, I know Dr. Bob. I've got 5 million books out there, so that's fun as well. I also I worked with Ken Blanchard, who wrote One Minute Manager, which has sold 15 million copies, and they are a lot of human resource shows, and they would very simple idea. They would just have someone take pictures of him and attendees.
Yeah.
And that was very big. People would line up for that, and maybe there'd be a book involved, maybe there wouldn't. It would just be a picture with Ken that
just
they
a
put
selfie,
up in their office. Yeah. So that was before selfies. So probably anyone could do it now, but it's easier to do when you see that they're allowing that and the person is being gracious about it.
Right.
So,
and again, it's all about working that line and making sure that it's not just people lining up that want a free selfie with the author, but they're actually, you've got somebody there that's qualifying as well.
You get to know them, you scan them, or you get their business card, and you start a conversation. So it's all about getting people to have the conversations. And if you do that right, then that's you're a step closer to the business.
Exactly. Well, I want to shift gears since your big thing is rewarding employees. I want to talk because I don't think there's nearly enough conversation around how to reward your booth staff. And I think that making the booth fun and making it successful and drawing in more qualified attendees can actually, a lot of that can go back to how well you motivate and incentivize your booth staff. So give us some ideas on that.
If they're not excited, if they're not excited, then it's going to be hard for anyone that comes by to be excited if they're kind of dragging, through, or the the mistakes there's still a lot of people make, that they're having lunch in the booth, or they're sitting down and talking to
Yeah.
each other. It's like
Yeah. The
you
10
gotta be
Commandments
there.
that I wrote about 10
Yeah.
Commandments of booth staffing.
And so you have to remind people of that, because so you got to get the people that are going to be at the booth together beforehand, and do just a quick session on do's and don'ts, and to remind them that you're representing the company, and we need you to be on, and that means to be even with traffic slows down, to still be on and ready to talk to someone, because they're sometimes everyone's in educational sessions and there's not many people walking around, and everyone backs off, but you don't know who's walking around. and
Exactly.
that might be a key person that so giving them the information and reminding them, and even just going through the mechanics even beyond the booth, in terms of a lot of times people haven't traveled, so what to tip, how to track your expenses, what do's and don'ts of broader than the booth, and in terms of representation of the company and of themselves. So that's all key. I think it makes a lot of sense too, because you're trying to build a rapport and a team spirit. So you should consider doing something fun for the group, as a thank you
Right.
for them, like beforehand or afterhand, or back with the rest of the staff, where they can report out. I worked at a company, and if I ever sent someone to attend the conference, I had them. Part of the expectation was that they at our next staff meeting, they'd give us an overview of what they learned, and what they heard that we could all benefit from. And that you do that right, and man, you're getting a lot more out of the conference. And that could be, of
Mm,
course, you're there for the clients, but it also could be to check out the competition, and
true.
and and what are they doing, and what seems to be working there, and so you can refine your plan, your approach to the market.
So let's talk about actual rewards and some ideas there. So I'm going to kind of give you some rapid fire things. So tangible versus intangible rewards, pros and cons.
Well, yes, my bias is that the intangible are actually worth more to employees. There's a big industry in gift cards and stuff like that, but you get a gift card, and you forget you even have it, and I don't know. It's more, that's maybe okay for a birthday party for your 7-year-old, but when it comes to professionals, uh, you know, again, it's nice. Here's a $10, $25 Starbucks gift card. You know, it's a nice gesture, but I think universally, from my research, it's much more important, the intangible things, the personal thank you. Great job with that. I overheard that last conversation. That's exactly what we're looking for. That reinforcement, the involving people, asking for their ideas, or how can we bring an energy to the booth? How can we make it fun, and see what they have to say? Then people, 89% of employees want to be involved in decisions that affect them. And here, if they're
Good point.
representing the company, see what if they have any ideas, or if there's, how do we handle people taking lunches? How do you handle that if you don't have much coverage in your booth? You know, think that through before you're in it, and then the person's not forced to eat in front of the
Yeah.
customers. I'm not sure what that looks like. Maybe it's teaming up with someone else that just has one person there, or but finding some way to help them through it, so they can't just make stuff happen, that you know unpredictable things they can think through. Um,
So what about group versus individual? Do you think it's a good idea to reward the individual booth staffers, like make it more of a competition, or do a group reward of, like, for the whole team? Hey, if we reach this goal of this many leads, then we do X.
I think both, honestly, that you do want to incentivize the group, and here's our goals for the thing, and this many contacts, or capturing this many names. Um, but then within that, you can always call out someone that, wow, Tom really took it to task, and he really, worked through his lunch because he was so excited about what we're doing. And you can recognize the group and then call out individuals as well along the way, and then you get the best of both worlds, because the group what gets recognized gets repeated, and you create teamwork by
True.
recognizing teamwork, and but the informal, don't overlook that. The simple, great job with that, or thanking people before they go, because often they've got their job is piling up while they're not there, unless their job is just to do
Mm-hmm.
booths, but often people are doing other stuff. And then when they get back to thank them and to make the connection to the department or the company about what this group did, I think is easy to do, and very important to
Good point.
put them on the showcase. Another fun thing that my wife's company, I saw them do this, and it was just fabulous that they had invited clients to come be in their booth to represent the company, and they would wear their company name tags, and people would be talking to them, and they say, "You don't work for them?" I go, no, I'm a customer. I buy from them because they're the best. It's like, whoa! It's all of a sudden it just, having them being there and being happy to be there and being excited to represent your products and services is a huge thing. I think more people should do that, because it has such a powerful effect.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Well, and the customer has fun because they get to be spotlighted. Basically, they're like a live example there in the booth, and then like you said, it makes the company look good because it's coming straight from the customer's endorsement. So
And it
it's a
might be,
win-win all the way around.
and the customer, depending on the conference, it may be something that they're planning to be at anyway, and so
Hmm.
you just ask them, hey, can you spend a few hours in our booth, and they're often excited to do so, and honored that you'd ask. So that's
Yeah,
that's the cool thing, if you can make strong relationships that you already have. uh,
true,
of course,
true.
um, other simple fun. I'm not real big on the trinkets and trash type of stuff, but you know logoed items and whatnot. I think I'm actually very biased by the most important things being the personal over the
Mm.
physical. From my research, those tend to be the biggest motivators, the things that stand out to people, that when they think back on having worked with you, they're going to remember more of the times that you called them out and you did a personal thank you or a written thank you, or you mentioned it in the staff meeting back home or to your manager that you called them out. That's going to stick with them more than a gift card.
Well, and speaking of, we got a link to your article that you wrote on low cost ideas, so people can go check out a lot of different. I mean, it's a huge post with a lot of different ideas, because I think, like we said, it is so important to have more fun. I mean, I think too often we get caught up in all the tasks and the busyness, and got to get this ordered and got to ship this and got to do this and got to book this, and we forget to actually make trade shows fun. And so
Yes.
I really appreciate you being here and giving us some great ideas.
And the
And
books organize things that you could do to make your own job more fun. So this is what a booth worker can do, how they can make a game
mhm,
out of it, how they can try to beat their personal best of what they did yesterday, a number of contacts or whatever it might be. Or it's things that you can do as a team as well, things you can do as a leader. And then when you get back to work, things that organizations do to make the culture more fun.
well, thank you
But
so much, Bob. We really appreciate you taking time out to be here with us on Virtual Lunch today.
I appreciate you having me.
You can find all the links mentioned during our interview in this episode's show notes at tradeshowinsights.com. And if you'd like to join us for an upcoming virtual lunch, you'll find info on that at exhibitmarketerscafe.com/lunch. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, you can subscribe to the podcast and automatically receive future episodes on your chosen device. Simply search for Trade Show Insights in Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or virtually anywhere else that podcasts are found, then click the subscribe button. Trade Show Insights is protected by the Creative Commons copyright license. You may feel free to share this recording with colleagues or embed it on your own blog as long as it's shared in its entirety and is not used for commercial purposes. To learn more, please see the link in the sidebar of the show notes at tradeshowinsights.com. Well, that's it for this episode of Trade Show Insights. Be sure to check out our show notes and archives at tradeshowinsights.com. You can also connect with me using the social media links or the contact page on the site. I'm Marlis Arnold. Thanks for listening, and be sure to join us next time for more tools to improve your exhibit results.